Let's talk about email marketing analytics briefly. One of the things that we want to think about is key performance indicators through email marketing analytics. Should you invest in e-marketing? Oh yeah. E-marketing is still a very valid and valuable tool, so don't let people tell you otherwise. There's lots of research showing the impact and effect of e-marketing. So please continue to do it. But you should probably do it right. It is a great retention channel, and that's what I use it for a lot. I should also emphasize permission-based e-marketing. This means that you get their permission to email them, and you give them clear opt-outs, and you only, again, email people who have opted in. So email categories of data, they should look familiar. There's the ABO, acquisition. You want to think about campaign data. How many emails were sent to whom and what happened when you sent them. Typically, why email marketing is so challenging is because a lot of stuff happens in this e-marketing, in the email marketing providers. You typically upload this into the programs, and then attributes of the customers are typically available to you. But once you release the email into the wild, they land in people's inboxes. We don't know what happens really until they come back to our site. So this what happened is really, really important. The behavior is the site data. What happened after the click? Did they bounce? Did they have engagement? So if they come to our site, were they engaged with us? Excuse me. And then outcomes. Did they convert? Did they generate revenue? And what was the multi-channel impact? Again, not just the website, but did they go maybe then to one of our ads because they remembered it? And then what's the customer lifetime value? So what did they not just spend from that email, but over time, what are they going to do or spend based on our macro conversions? What I should tell you at this point is many times your analytics tool and your email tool do not talk to each other. Even if they say they talk to each other, they don't fully talk to each other. And so a lot of times what we end up doing is manual end-to-end analysis. Basically, I sent it, they got it, they did something, and I have to take Excel and manually input it. And guys, there's just not really a way around that. But it helps you. Again, why do we do it? Because data helps us make better decisions. It helps us write better copy. It helps us send better emails. It helps us time our emails. It helps improve our landing pages. It helps do a lot. So don't shrug this off and say, I'm not going to do the work. When you get to the place where you're creating emails, it's really important to make sure that you do end-to-end analysis of the data if you can. This is a big no-no, and I'm just going to state it. I gave a link here. You can Google URL created for Google Analytics. You'll learn more about that in the Google Analytics course. But never send an email without a campaign tracking parameter. If you send an email and don't have the campaign tracking parameter in it, you can't track it, which means I don't know. I have no data in terms of where they went or what they clicked or whether they are clicking on my site because of a campaign or because they just like us or they saw us somewhere else. You want to make sure that your URLs are created for any type of campaign you're doing, whether it be an ad, Google ad, or whether it be an email. Anything you're doing needs to have the campaign tracking code in it. So there's this dirty dozen of things that you should be measuring in email. I'm going to go through them briefly. Again, if you are really interested in them, Avinash does a good job in his book of digging into this, and I think he has a couple articles online as well on this. The first thing that you want to look at is delivery rate. This is the number of emails sent minus the number of bounce backs divided by the number of emails sent. And this basically tells you how many emails had a fighting chance to get to the person they were actually intended for. This helps ensure that we keep our email list as clean as possible. And this is an acquisition metric, so that's the A. Open rate is the number of emails opened divided by the number of emails delivered. We could have used number of emails opened divided by the number of emails sent, but that includes bounce backs, and we don't want to do that. We want to get a more accurate figure. Most modern email reading programs have a preview pane And when it's shown in preview, Java is turned off and email service provider won't be able to capture if it's been previewed. So you won't know if I opened the email. I'm sorry. The open rate you're looking at represents a tiny, tiny portion of the email, the actual email open rate, but it's consistent, right? So you want to take it with a grain of salt, a large grain of salt, but a grain of salt. It does help us give some information about, again, acquisition. Subscriber retention rate. This refers to a person who actually received your email. This is the number of subscribers minus bounce back minus unsubscribers divided by the number of subscribers. And what you're trying to understand is how clean your list is, the bounce backs, and if you are using permission marketing to fine tune how often, you might want to fine tune how often you're sending, what you're sending. You want to have a higher subscriber retention rate, of course. This is a quality metric, but it's also an acquisition metric. Click to delivery rate, number 4. Sometimes you'll see this listed as CTDR. This is the number of clicks divided by the number of emails delivered. This metric helps us understand mailing list quality. It helps us measure email content relevance, and it is an acquisition metric. I should note that you can have a higher than 100% rate here because if your emails are highly relevant, each person may have clicked multiple links multiple times within the email. So don't be surprised if your percentage is over 100%. Number 5, bounce rate. We've already talked about what bounce rate is, but from an email perspective, this is the number of email campaign visits with a single page view divided by the number of email campaign visits. And so this measures when a person goes to the page, pukes, and leaves. They never watched a video, they didn't do anything. We talk about not writing checks your email campaign can't deliver, so you need to have a relevant page on your website from the campaign. So this happens when you promise the world and they get to your website and they see not the world. They don't see what you're promising them. They're not getting content that's relevant. One of the worst things you can do is send people to the front page of your website. No, develop a targeted page with the information that you're telling them you're sending them. This is a behavior metric. Number 6, depth of visit. This is a percentage of email campaign visits that last longer than you name the number of pages. After everything that you put into this, into the e-marketing campaign, how deep should they go? So think of it like that. Do you just want them on one page? Well, of course not. 2 pages? You're probably looking at somewhere around 4 pages, 3 or 4 pages, but it just depends on your website and its complexity. We again work with our management team to determine what would represent some success for the business. And this is a behavior metric. Number 7, actions completed. This is a percentage of email campaign visits that watched a video or did whatever you wanted them to do. This could be a subscription to an RSS feed or sign up, etc. This starts to get into micro conversions, and it goes beyond just viewing pages into something specific for our website. This is really important for e-commerce because if they didn't convert, what actions did they take? That is really important. And this is also a behavior metric. Macro conversion rate. This is why we exist in the business world. So whether it's purchasing something or applying to a university, this is why we have a website, right? This is our big guy. And so this is the number of the one big outcome divided by the number of email campaign visits. So how many people applied to Mercyhurst divided by how many campaign visits did we see? And so other examples, you might be looking at conversion rate for e-commerce, or lead submission for a car company, or subscription to an offline print version of a magazine, or maybe a download of a sermon for a church. This is the single biggest outcome for your company. And this is an outcomes metric. Number 9, average revenue per email sent. This is the total revenue divided by the number of emails sent. Really complicated. This is only for e-commerce, of course. And why are we emphasizing in this emails delivered before we were emphasizing emails delivered, and now we're switching to emails sent, and also disregarded emails opened, rather than using opened and delivered, because the number of emails sent will actually make the total lower We want to put a lot of pressure on the e-marketers to have clean lists, good content, etc. And so if we do these things, the metric will be good. So we're going to deliberately make the areas look lower to put pressure on the e-marketers to do their job well. This is an outcome metric. Number 10, the micro conversion rate. This is the number of many small outcomes. So remember, micro conversions are the little pieces along the path. Number of many small outcomes divided by the number of email campaign visits. And this is measuring all the micro conversions. So wish lists created, downloads, etc. If you put micro and macro together, this is really showing the total success for your business. Also an outcomes metric. Average economic value per email. This is the total economic value divided by the number of emails sent. And economic value, in case you don't know, is economic value revenue from macro conversions plus the economic value from micro conversions. And you set those values, you set the economic value. So we had figured out at one point what the economic value of somebody signing up to take a campus tour was, because we knew what the percentages of people who took a tour would be to apply and to actually enroll in the university. So we could put a dollar figure on it. And so that was a micro conversion, but it did carry an economic value. Obviously, macro conversion, if you're applying, also has another percentage, another price to it as well. And so what this is to do, this average economic value per email, is to show the holistic impact from the campaign. So obviously that's also an outcomes metric. Finally, profitability, which many of you probably thought was the most important and the only one that should be listed. It is not, because we obviously, all these other ones help us lead to this and help us get better at this. Profitability is revenue generated minus campaign cost minus cost of goods sold divided by the number of emails sent. And this is the cost to generate the campaign. So this is fees of email service providers, lists, cost of sending the emails, cost of managing unsubscribes, salary of the e-marketer, etc. And so if you were to sell an iPod for $400, but it costs $350 to create the iPod, $10 to send the email, the campaign cost, you have a $40 profit. And then you divide by the number of emails sent. Okay, and so you get an idea of how valuable each of your emails was to you in this particular campaign. And that's also an outcome metric. And so let's say, again, we're all about critical few. If you can only do 3 things, what would you do? Well, you choose one from the acquisition, one from the behavior, and one from the outcomes, of course, right? So getting them to the site, click the delivery rate, we would choose that one. You would choose for a behavior metric, you would want to look at a bounce rate or page depth, depending on whether you're e-commerce or not. And then profitability, because again, with either e-commerce or not, you can obviously define what the value of a particular action, micro or macro conversion was to your website.